Hello, YouTube. Welcome to Lifestyle Aesthetics, where we teach you how to level up over time. So today, I'm going to talk about what my split has been like lately. I used to focus on full body workouts twice a week, but now that I have more equipment at home, I'm able to focus back on a 4-day split, which is an upper body and lower body split. Of course, at the gym, you are able to do cardio, but now that I'm busy with work again, I am only going to be working out at home with the weights. So my goal is to develop stronger rounder shoulders. So I would start off with shoulder press. So compound movements is what I would recommend to do first. Other times I would do incline pressing for prioritizing the upper chest. So any type of push movement that I would want to focus on since I am fresh for very first exercises I would like to do in the gym. Definitely shoulder pressing, incline bench pressing is what I would do. And to be more joint friendly, I don't really use barbells for bench pressing or incline pressing. I like to keep it with dumbbells. Holding them at a 45-degree angle gives me a better contraction, better stretch, easy for the joints. There are other days that I would recommend what I wanted to focus on would be building back. So I would start off other days on doing weighted pull-ups, or I would also do weighted dips, right? So depending on what you want to work on most for that day is what I would do. So I feel like when I do two sets, even with the drop sets, I'm able to focus on multiple muscle groups of my upper body. I know people would like to do 4 to 6 exercises, 2 to 3 sets, but I have built up my stamina, my energy to where I'm able to focus on every muscle group that has to do with the upper body. Mainly because it has so much stuff, so many different muscle groups. You have your shoulders, your chest, your back, your arms, your forearms, right? So focusing on what I want to build rather than doing just straight pushing or pulling, right? That's what I feel comfortable with. This for me makes sure that I'm hitting the muscle groups twice a week, right? So doing fairly on these movements, doing partials with the lateral raises, supersetting those. I would do chest flies to work on the middle chest. Well, the whole chest actually gets worked out, but I feel like the middle part of the chest gets worked out when you do pec deck flies on this machine. Other days I could also do like just the straight pushing for the middle chest, right? And as you notice with these weights that I'm doing, I'm trying to hold it at the top as much as I can, controlling the release. You want to do them slow control. That's how you build the strength in the muscle, being able to control the weight. So that way you are getting stronger, sure, making PRs, but pushing or pulling weight that you're able to control. Um, Another go-to is I do a drop set immediately after doing that first set, just to feel that extra burn on the muscle, extra focus, building that more. And then I would always rest between 2 to 3 minutes, basically when I feel like I'm good and fresh for the next set or the next routine, right? And of course, to keep my body fat low as much as I can, I work out fasted, only drink water, and then do some cardio. So since recently I want to build more shoulders, I would prioritize doing shoulder press, right? Just for myself, right? You guys can pick and choose what it is that you want to do. Um, I also like to do rows with dumbbells, the machines. There's different things you can work on, but need to remember the position of where you put your hand when you work on these different movements. Since the back is basically comprised of upper back, middle back, and lower back, I just use 3 different hand positions for these pulling movements. So on this day, I did weighted pull-ups on neutral grip. I did the rows with pronated grip, and an underhand grip. And that's pretty much what a back portion of this upper body day would look like, right? Of course, I'm still pushing and pulling all in the same day. You would have to get experience and build up your body to get to that level. Of course, you want to control it, control the weight, slowly letting go. On these lat pull down machines, I like to bend slightly back, um, 30 degrees, not all the way back, just slightly back. 20 to 30 degrees is fine. You could also keep your body upright with these pulling movements, right? So that would be essentially the compound movements, all right? And then the isolation work. So triceps, biceps, forearms, right? I like to do the isolation movements at the end. Well, at the end of the workout or after essentially I have done the compound movements, right? Compound muscle groups are basically multiple muscle groups being worked at the same time, not just one or two. So with these skull crushers on a flat bench, I try to control the weight, holding it at the bottom, holding it at the top, still controlled, then dropping the weight by 10 pounds to make sure my triceps are getting worked out. Skull crushers for me, I feel like have done wonders. I feel that my sleeves much faster over time. Um, Also lateral raises on the machines. Um, so right here is when I'm doing like um partial reps because I have already reached failure, right? I would have also changed the pin for a lighter weight. You could also do your lateral raises against the bench for support, so that way you don't swing your body too much when you're doing these. And of course, when you do the bench support, you want to reach failure on the weight that you actually can control, doing the higher reps, right? And then just do partials at the end, all the way till you can't do anymore, right? That's how you pretty much would do this, right? This is what I would schedule into a routine, right? If you're the more experienced lifter, you can handle this workload, right? So partials are the way to go. Moving on to the arms, so I would do hammer curls on one upper body day, mixing that up with reverse grip. Another day, just regular bicep curls, sometimes on a machine, the preacher curls, right? So you mix it up every now and then. So hit the different heads of your biceps and triceps. So as you move on in weight, um, to get more balance, you could do them one arm at a time. I'm at the level where I can now do 40 pounds in each hand, right? Trying to increase the weight just slightly, holding it at the top, slowly controlling the weight on the bottom, right? So that's the idea for all these movements. So with the rear delt machine, trying to push this weight behind me, still in control. Do not rush it. There's no need to rush it and do partials because you want to make sure that you're working on those rear deltoids to help you get that full round shoulder look. Dropping the weight, right? Drop sets is one of the key parts of my program that I do. I try to implement them because when I do these drop sets, I feel like I am working that muscle group to extra fatigue, to extra failure by allowing myself to drop the weight and do more reps. So, cable machine, tricep push down, mixing that up with overhead tricep extension, right? This is the isolation work you would do after you focus on your compound movements for that day. Sometimes I like to use the V grip, other days I like to use the rope, other days I like to use a straight bar. So different attachment styles. You're gonna have to play around with the weight because some of them are easier than others, right? And vice versa. Other handles are much more difficult or challenging compared to other ones, right? And for since everybody's different, not every attachment works that muscle more or they would feel it more, right? You just have to test each handle. So I like to play around with them, trying to make sure I work out different angles, feeling more sore the day after depending on the attachment. This is another version of me hitting my rear shoulders, leaning at the edge of the seat of the bench, leaning forward, and using pronated grip. So I know people like to use neutral grip, but pronated grip for me definitely I feel it more. This is another isolation type of movement where you're doing traps and rear shoulders. I like to superset these either with a rowing type of motion exercise, or dropping the weight. But rear shoulders are a heavy part of my program, making sure they are fully developed because it's easier to develop the anterior and um, middle part of the deltoid, but the back part is people they don't really do them. You want to make sure that you're strong even on those type of movements. So with the upright row, supersetting that with this type of row, pronated grip, making sure that my traps are being hit, the upper back, right? This also helps you develop a stronger grip, right? Another version of doing reverse flies. With the cables though, it's okay. To do this neutral grip, I feel it a lot. Even if I was to do it on one hand at a time, for some reason, cable machines, when I'm doing neutral grip, it works out the back shoulders a lot for me, right? Could even do these standing. Of course, be mindful that you want to switch the opposite hand, right? So you don't want to keep the same hand that's above on the two sets. You want to be mindful that you're switching hands, right? And then with this one, you got to make sure that you're not overextending on the lateral raises on the cable machines. You're keeping it parallel to the floor, right? With this, you don't necessarily have to keep your arms fully straight. I keep it at a bend, slight bend, but I still feel it on the lateral head of the shoulders. But pausing it at the top is what I like to do, slowly, controlled, pulling it back, releasing it back down. This is another way you could work on your upper back, right? So compound usually goes first. Well, of course, based on what machines are available, but that's the ideal way to do it. And then you do the isolation work, right? So growing my traps is like one of the things I like to do. I find them like it's more aesthetic, makes you look stronger, helps you develop a stronger, thicker neck, right? And reverse flies, I feel like they also help you develop your traps a lot as well, since it's part of the upper back muscle group, right? So I like to superset these with um, traps, trap shrugs, or using drop sets, 30 pounds to 20 pounds. That way I feel it all the way in the upper back. That's pretty much what an upper body day would look like, right? So you have your key groups. The key list would be incline bench press, weighted pull up, weighted dip, right? And then the overhead press for the shoulders, right? Those would be the key compound movements, the rows, different grips, and then isolation work. So for my lower body days, I like to do either Romanian deadlift or seated leg press first. For me, that essentially works out multiple muscle groups. So this one works out your glutes, a little bit of your thighs, hamstrings, right? And then doing a glute extension right after that movement, right? So I'm trying to get a little bit thicker legs, making them stronger. Help me like get a more proportioned body. I feel like my upper body is like a little bit overdeveloped compared to my lower body, so I'm trying to keep that balanced out. Want to make sure that me using my 4 days wisely with rest in between to make sure that my whole body is proportional. So Romanian deadlift, right, works out the hamstrings as well, some calves, your core, because you need to keep your body upright, straight, right? So not every gym is gonna have this machine. Usually I do them with dumbbells or barbells. So you want to pause it at the top, slowly letting go on the bottom, and you want to hinge your butt a little bit outward as much as you can to make sure you get that full extension, full contraction for your lower body when you do Romanian deadlift. And then doing these leg curls, laying on the bench helps me to develop the calves, the hamstrings, right? And when I do either any upper body movement or lower body movement, I like to pause and hold at the top as much as I can, right? Because here we are trying to build strength by controlling the weight, right? The weight shouldn't really control you. And you develop strength by controlling how that weight is going to move while you use your body, right? So the leg abductions where I'm either pushing outward or inward, those two movements I try to keep in my lower body program. And what I've been teaching a few people to do when they do a lower body day. So essentially you would want to hold it at the top for 1 or 2 seconds and then slowly release. So hold it. So when doing the outer thigh, hold it when you're outward, and for this one, holding it when you're inward, right? And then just slowly releasing your legs when you do that rep, right? You could also do drop sets with these, doing heavier weight first, and then going for higher reps with lighter weight. Calves, I'm gonna put more attention to them, so I'm gonna, make sure that these are part of the program, right? Calves is like one of the aesthetic look muscle groups of your legs as well, since that's what people see when you wear shorts in the summertime and the spring, right? Want to fill those out. And when I do these, I like to essentially extend my feet. So hold that at the top and hold it when it's inward. And to build that longevity, you want to also focus on doing tibial raises. Um, this is like the muscle group in the legs where it's like around surrounding. And then from here, just doing supersets for calf extension tibial raises, right? This is to help you to be more functional, more mobile as we get older, right? Currently 32 years old, so I'm reaching my years slowly. Want to make sure that I'm still functional, still strong all the way through, right? Give me a like and subscribe if you like these videos, okay? Thank you for watching, right? And I will catch you next video. And of course, we're doing leg extensions, but that pretty much would wrap it up. Leg extensions works out the thigh area, all right? I'll see you in the next video.